The emergency sirens across the Galactic Council space station screamed their warnings into the void. Admiral Zethrak's four arms trembled as he watched the massive shape emerge from hyperspace. The creature that appeared before them defied every law of physics his people had discovered in their 1,000 years of space travel. The dragon was impossibly large, stretching nearly 5 kilometers from snout to tail. Its scales shimmered with colors that hurt to look at directly, shifting between deep purples and burning golds that seemed to contain entire star systems. When it moved, space itself rippled around its form like water disturbed by a stone. Ancient energy crackled along its spine in patterns that made veteran scientists weep with fear. "By the 7 moons of Kethra," whispered Dr. Alana, the station's chief xenobiologist. Her tentacles curled tight against her body in terror. "That's a void dragon. They're supposed to be myths." Captain Jorik of the Altarian Navy stood frozen at his post. His people had fought wars across 3 galaxies, but nothing in their military training had prepared them for this. The dragon's eyes alone were larger than most battleships, glowing with the light of dying suns. When it breathed, cosmic dust swirled around its nostrils like tiny galaxies being born and destroyed. The creature had appeared without warning during the annual Galactic Peace Summit. Representatives from 47 different species had gathered to discuss trade agreements and territorial disputes. Now they all pressed against the observation deck windows, watching in absolute silence as the most dangerous predator in the known universe floated just outside their station. "Why isn't it attacking?" asked Ambassador Krell, his voice barely a whisper. The Manthari diplomat's usual confidence had vanished completely. "Every record we have says void dragons destroy everything they encounter." Admiral Zethrak checked his instruments again, hoping he had made some terrible mistake. But the readings were clear. The dragon's power output was off the charts. Its bioenergy signature showed levels that could crack planets in half. Ancient texts spoke of these creatures as the universe's ultimate predators, being so powerful they could devour entire star systems if they chose. "It's just watching us," reported Lieutenant Vex from the sensor station. "No aggressive movements detected, but its energy readings are climbing." The dragon slowly turned its massive head toward the station. Its movement was graceful and deliberate, like a cat studying a mouse before deciding whether to pounce. Each scale on its face was the size of a small building, carved with patterns that seemed to shift and change when no one looked directly at them. Ambassador Rena of the Crystalline Consortium had seen her people survive ice ages and cosmic storms, but she had never felt fear like this. "We should evacuate immediately," she said, her crystal body ringing with nervous energy. "Send distress signals to every fleet in the sector." "Too late for that," Admiral Zethrak replied grimly. "At its size and power level, that thing could catch any ship we have before it cleared the docking bay. We're trapped here until it decides to leave or destroys us." The dragon's attention seemed to focus on something inside the station. Its massive head tilted slightly, and those terrible eyes narrowed with what looked almost like curiosity. The assembled diplomats followed its gaze and felt their hearts sink. Through the transparent, aluminum walls of the observation deck, they could see into the civilian quarters. The dragon was looking directly at the section where families of the diplomatic staff were housed. Among them was the human delegation, one of the newest species to join the Galactic Council. "It's focused on the human quarters," Dr. Alana observed, her voice thick with dread. "Why would it care about them specifically?" Captain Jorik had fought alongside human forces in the border wars. He knew them to be brave fighters and clever tacticians, but they were still a young species. Their bodies were soft compared to most galactic races, with no natural armor or energy weapons. Against a void dragon, they would be less than insects. "Should we try to communicate with it?" suggested Ambassador Krell, though his tone made it clear he thought the idea was hopeless. "With what?" Admiral Zethrak's laugh held no humor. "Every language expert we have says void dragons communicate through cosmic forces we don't understand. They're older than most of the stars in this galaxy. What could we possibly say that would interest something like that? The dragon continued its examination of the human quarters. Its breathing created small storms in the nearby asteroid field, and its heartbeat registered on seismic equipment throughout the station. Ancient power radiated from its form in waves that made sensitive instruments overload and fail. Inside the civilian quarters, the human families had noticed the commotion. Most of the adults were gathering at windows, trying to understand what was happening. Some held their children close, sensing the danger even if they couldn't see its source clearly. Ambassador David Chun, the human diplomatic leader, was in the main conference room when his aide brought him the news. "Sir, there's something outside the station. Something big. The other delegations are calling emergency sessions." David had seen many strange things since humanity joined the galactic community 3 years ago. But when he reached the observation deck and saw the dragon, his mind struggled to process what he was seeing. The creature was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure, like a living constellation that had decided to take physical form. "How long has it been there?" he asked Admiral Zethrak. 17 minutes, the Admiral replied. "We're trying to determine its intentions, but frankly, Ambassador Chun, if it wanted to destroy us, we would already be dead. That thing has enough power to vaporize this entire station without effort." David studied the dragon's posture and the way it was looking at their quarters. Something about its behavior seemed almost familiar, like a massive cat that had noticed something interesting and was trying to decide whether to investigate further. "Has it made any hostile moves?" David asked. "None yet. But void dragons are unpredictable. Ancient records suggest they can shift from calm observation to complete destruction in seconds. We're all just waiting to see what it decides to do." The dragon's massive form shifted slightly, and everyone on the observation deck tensed. But instead of attacking, the creature seemed to settle into a more comfortable position, like it was preparing to wait for something. Its tail curled around a nearby asteroid, and its wings folded against its sides. Dr. Alana checked her instruments frantically. "This makes no sense. According to everything we know about void dragons, it should have either attacked immediately or left by now. They don't just hover around space stations observing things." "Maybe it's sick," suggested Lieutenant Vex hopefully. "Or maybe it's lost." Captain Jorik shook his head. "Nothing that powerful gets lost. And look at its energy readings. That thing is in perfect health. No, it's here for a reason. We just don't know what that reason is yet." The dragon's eyes suddenly brightened, and its head lifted with what looked like interest. Through the station walls, it had apparently spotted something specific in the human quarters. The massive creature began to move closer to the station, its approach slow and deliberate. "All hands to emergency stations," Admiral Zethrak announced over the comm system. "Prepare for possible evacuation procedures." But David Chun found himself moving in the opposite direction from most of the other diplomats. While they backed away from the windows, he pressed closer, trying to see what had caught the dragon's attention. In the human family quarters, 8-year-old Emma Martinez was playing with her stuffed animals near the large viewing port that looked out into space. Her parents were in another room, discussing the sudden emergency alerts with other human families. Emma had always loved looking at the stars, and she often spent hours at this window making up stories about the strange lights in the distance. When she saw the dragon, her first reaction wasn't fear. It was wonder. The creature was unlike anything in her picture books or video stories, but it was also the most magnificent thing she had ever seen. Its scales caught the light from nearby stars and threw it back in patterns that reminded her of rainbows after summer storms. "Pretty," she whispered to her stuffed bear, holding it up to the window. "Look how pretty it is." The dragon seemed to hear her somehow, despite the vacuum of space and the thick station walls. Its enormous head turned in her direction, and those cosmic eyes focused on the small human child pressed against the viewing port. For a moment that stretched across eternity, the universe's most feared predator and A human child looked at each other through transparent aluminum and empty space. The dragon's expression was impossible to read, but something in its posture suggested surprise. Emma waved at the dragon with her free hand, still clutching her teddy bear with the other. It was the same enthusiastic wave she gave to her grandparents during video calls, completely innocent and friendly. The dragon's massive head tilted to one side, like it was trying to understand something completely outside its experience. For billions of years, every creature it had encountered had either fled in terror or attacked in desperate fury. Nothing had ever simply waved hello. Back on the observation deck, every instrument was going crazy. The dragon's energy signature was fluctuating wildly, but not in patterns that suggested aggression. Dr. Alana stared at her readings in confusion. "It's almost like it's curious," she said hesitantly. "But that's impossible. Void dragons don't get curious about anything except food and territory." Ambassador Chen suddenly understood what was happening. "It's not looking at our quarters randomly," he said. "It's looking at my niece. She's right there at the viewing port in section C7. Admiral Zethrax's 4 eyes widened in alarm. "We need to get that child away from the window immediately. If the dragon interprets her presence as a challenge or threat." "No," David said firmly. "Look at its body language. It's not threatening. It's confused. I think this might be the first time it's ever encountered a human child." The dragon continued to study Emma with the same intensity it might give to a new type of star or an unexplored nebula. Its cosmic senses could detect her life energy, so small and bright compared to the ancient power that flowed through its own form. There was something about her fearless curiosity that reminded the dragon of its own youth, billions of years ago, when the universe was still young and full of wonders to discover. Emma pressed her face closer to the window and fogged the surface with her breath. When she drew back, she traced a simple, smiley face in the condensation with her finger. It was a gesture of pure childhood innocence, the kind of thing she did on car windows during Earth's winter months. The dragon saw the drawing appear on the window and felt something stir in its ancient heart that it hadn't experienced in countless eons. Not hunger or territorial instinct, but something else entirely. Something that had been sleeping in the depths of its cosmic consciousness since the first stars began to shine. Throughout the station, alarm systems continued to wail, but the dragon paid them no attention. Its focus was entirely on the small human child who had drawn a happy face for a creature capable of destroying worlds. For the first time in its vast existence, the universe's most dangerous predator found itself experiencing something that might have been called joy. The dragon began to move closer to the station, but its approach was unlike anything the gathered aliens had expected. Instead of the aggressive rush they feared, the massive creature drifted forward with the careful precision of someone trying not to break something delicate and precious. Emma watched with delight as the enormous being came nearer. She could now see individual scales on its face, each one swirling with colors that seemed to tell stories of distant galaxies and ancient adventures. The dragon's eyes, which had terrified seasoned warriors across the galaxy, looked gentle to her 8-year-old perception. "Hello, big dragon," she said aloud, knowing it couldn't hear her, but feeling like she should say something anyway. "Are you lost? Do you want to be friends?" Dr. Alana's instruments were recording energy fluctuations unlike anything in the scientific literature. The dragon's neural activity is spiking, but not in aggressive patterns. It's almost like it's trying to communicate somehow. Ambassador Chun had reached the civilian quarters and was racing toward his niece's location. Other human families were evacuating the area on orders from station security, but Emma was too fascinated by the dragon to notice the commotion behind her. When David finally reached her, he found Emma completely unafraid. She was talking to the dragon like it was a friendly neighborhood dog rather than a cosmic predator. "Uncle David, look, isn't it beautiful? I think it likes me." David looked out the viewing port at the dragon, which was now so close that its massive eye filled most of the window. The creature was studying Emma with an intensity that should have been terrifying, but there was something almost gentle in its gaze. "Emma, we need to move back from the window," David said carefully, not wanting to startle either his niece or the dragon. "The other grown-ups are worried about the dragon being so close." "But why?" Emma asked innocently. "It's not scary. Look, it's just watching. Like when I watch the fish at the aquarium." The dragon seemed to understand that the adult human was concerned. Its massive head pulled back slightly, giving them more space while still maintaining its focus on Emma. The movement was so considerate that David found himself wondering if the creature was more intelligent than anyone had suspected. Captain Jork arrived with a security team, but stopped dead when he saw the scene. The dragon could have easily breached the station hall at this distance, but instead it was floating peacefully while a human child continued to wave at it through the window. "Sir," one of his soldiers whispered, "should we activate the emergency weapons systems?" "With what ammunition?" Jork replied quietly. "Our most powerful weapons would barely scratch something that size. Besides, it's not acting hostile. Let's not give it a reason to change its mind." Emma suddenly had an idea. She pressed her teddy bear against the window and made it wave one of its little arms at the dragon. "This is Mr. Buttons," she announced. "He says hello, too." The dragon's massive head tilted to the other side, and something that might have been amusement flickered in its cosmic eyes. It had witnessed the birth and death of countless civilizations, but this was the first time any creature had ever introduced it to a stuffed toy. Dr. Ilana burst into the observation area, her portable sensors beeping frantically. The dragon's emotional resonance patterns are completely unprecedented. It's showing signs of what we might call affection, but that's impossible for a void dragon. Admiral Zethrak's voice crackled over the comm system. "Ambassador Chun, we're reading massive energy buildups around the dragon. You need to evacuate that area immediately." But David was studying the dragon's behavior more carefully than anyone else. "I don't think the energy buildup is aggressive," he said. "Look at how it's positioning itself. It's being careful not to get too close to the station hall. Those energy patterns might be defensive to make sure it doesn't accidentally damage us." The dragon was indeed struggling with its own immense power. Every breath it took created gravitational fluctuations that could destabilize nearby objects. Its natural electromagnetic field was strong enough to disrupt space station systems if it got too close. For a creature accustomed to the vast emptiness of deep space, being near something so fragile required constant careful control. Emma seemed to sense the dragon's dilemma. "Are you trying not to hurt us?" she asked the creature. "That's really nice of you. My mom says being gentle with smaller things is important." The dragon's eyes brightened at her words, and it managed to nod its massive head very slowly and carefully. The gesture sent small shock waves through the assembled alien observers, who had never imagined that such a creature could understand or care about the concept of gentleness. Ambassador Krell arrived with representatives from 6 other species, all of them armed with various scanning devices and weapons. They stopped short when they saw Emma still talking to the dragon through the window. "Why haven't you evacuated the child?" demanded General Thorn of the Draconian Empire. "That thing could kill her with a single breath." "But it won't," Emma said confidently, having overheard the conversation. "It's nice. It's trying really hard not to hurt anyone." The dragon seemed to understand that it was being discussed. It looked at the gathering crowd of alien officials and then back at Emma. Very carefully, it extended one massive claw toward the window, stopping just short of touching the transparent aluminum. The claw was larger than Emma's entire body, but the gesture was unmistakably gentle. Emma giggled and pressed her small hand against the window, matching the position of the dragon's claw. Through the transparent barrier, the smallest human child and the universe's most powerful predator shared a moment of connection that defied every assumption about how such encounters should go. "Incredible," whispered Dr. Ilana. "The dragon's biorhythms are actually synchronizing with the child's heartbeat. It's like it's trying to match her calm energy patterns." The dragon began to make soft rumbling sounds that vibrated through the station hall. To the alien observers, it sounded like cosmic thunder that could herald destruction. But Emma clapped her hands together with delight. "It's purring," she announced, "like a really big kitty cat. It likes me." Captain Jorik checked his instruments and realized with shock that the child was right. The deep vibrations coming from the dragon matched the frequency patterns that many species use to express contentment and affection. Somehow, this ancient cosmopredator was purring like a pet. The dragon's massive tail swayed gently behind it, and its wings shifted into a more relaxed position. Every sign of its body language suggested that it was not only non-threatening, but actually enjoying the interaction with Emma. "This is rewriting everything we know about void dragons," Dr. Alana muttered as she frantically recorded data. "They're supposed to be solitary creatures incapable of forming emotional bonds with other species." Ambassador Chun found himself thinking about human children and their remarkable ability to see past surface appearances. Emma wasn't looking at a terrifying monster when she saw the dragon. She was seeing a lonely, intelligent creature that had probably never experienced friendship before. "Emma," he said gently, "what do you think the dragon wants?" Emma considered this question seriously, studying the dragon's expression with the earnest focus that only children can manage. "I think it's sad," she said finally, "and lonely. Maybe it doesn't have any friends because everyone is scared of it." The dragon's purring stopped abruptly, and its eyes dimmed slightly. Somehow, the child had identified exactly what the creature was feeling after eons of isolation. Throughout its vast existence, every encounter with other life forms had ended in fear, flight, or futile attempts at violence. It had forgotten what it felt like to have someone look at it without terror. Emma noticed the dragon's changed mood immediately. "Oh, don't be sad," she said, pressing both hands against the window. "I'm not scared of you. You can be my friend if you want." The dragon stared at her for a long moment, processing the concept of friendship. In all its billions of years of existence, no creature had ever offered such a thing. The word itself was foreign to its experience, yet something deep in its cosmic consciousness recognized the truth and beauty of what the child was offering. Very slowly, the dragon began to lower its massive head until it was level with Emma's position at the window. The movement took several minutes and required precise control to avoid creating dangerous gravitational effects. When it was finally in position, the dragon's enormous eye was only a few feet from the transparent barrier that separated them. Emma stared directly into that cosmic eye without flinching. Where trained warriors saw the terrifying power to destroy worlds, she saw ancient wisdom and profound loneliness. "You have the prettiest eyes," she told the dragon sincerely. "They look like space where all the stars live." The dragon's eye began to glow more brightly, but not with the harsh light of aggression. Instead, it was the warm glow of a creature experiencing genuine happiness for perhaps the first time in its existence. Somehow, this small human child had managed to reach across the vast gulf between species and offer something that the dragon had never known it was missing. The assembled alien diplomats watched in stunned silence as the most dangerous predator in known space continued to interact peacefully with an 8-year-old human girl. Everything they thought they knew about void dragons was being challenged by the simple power of a child's fearless kindness. "Sir," Lieutenant Vex reported to Admiral Zethrak, "the dragon's energy signature is stabilizing. Whatever it's experiencing right now, it seems to be having a calming effect on its natural power fluctuations." Dr. Alana was documenting everything she could. This could change our understanding of cosmic predator psychology entirely. If void dragons are capable of forming emotional bonds, it suggests a level of consciousness and emotional complexity that we never suspected. Emma suddenly had another idea. She picked up her teddy bear and held it close to her chest for a moment, then kissed its fuzzy head before pressing it against the window again. "Mr. Buttons wants to give you a kiss," she announced to the dragon. "But you're too big to reach through the window." The dragon watched this display of affection with intense curiosity. The concept of a kiss was another foreign experience, but it could sense the caring intention behind the gesture. The creature's massive form trembled slightly as it processed emotions it had no previous context for understanding. Then, in a moment that would be remembered throughout galactic history, 8-year-old Emma Martinez pressed her own lips to the transparent aluminum window and kissed the barrier that separated her from the universe's most feared predator. The dragon's reaction was immediate and profound. Its entire massive form shuddered with what could only be described as overwhelming emotion. The cosmic entity that had never known gentleness, never experienced affection, never been offered friendship without fear, found itself completely undone by the simple kindness of a human child's kiss. Throughout the station, every sensor designed to measure emotional and psychic energy overloaded simultaneously. The dragon's response to Emma's gesture was so powerful that it created ripples in space-time itself, broadcasting waves of pure, unprecedented joy across multiple dimensions. For the first time in billions of years, the universe's deadliest dragon had been shown love, and the cosmos itself seemed to tremble with the beauty of that moment. The dragon's response to Emma's kiss rippled across dimensions in ways that scientists would study for centuries. Ancient circuits in its cosmic consciousness that had been dormant since the universe's youth suddenly blazed to life. The creature's massive form began to glow with soft, warm light that transformed its appearance from terrifying predator to magnificent cosmic guardian. Emma giggled as she watched colors flow across the dragon's scales like aurora dancing across a planet's atmosphere. "You're even prettier when you're happy," she told the creature. "Do you like getting kisses? I can give you more if you want." Throughout the station, alien observers stood frozen in shock. Ambassador Rena's crystalline form was vibrating at frequencies that indicated complete bewilderment. In 3,000 years of recorded galactic history, nothing like this has ever happened, she whispered. General Thorn of the Draconian Empire, a species that prided itself on understanding predator psychology, was frantically checking his instruments. The creature's neural patterns are showing massive reorganization. It's like watching a planetary consciousness evolve in real time. Dr. Alana was so busy recording data that her tentacles were moving in all directions at once. The dragon's psychic emanations have shifted from predatory frequencies to what I can only describe as protective, nurturing patterns. This is beyond unprecedented. It's miraculous. The dragon began to emit soft, musical tones that resonated through the station's hull. The sounds were hauntingly beautiful, like whale songs mixed with stellar wind harmonies. To the alien listeners, it sounded like the dragon was trying to sing for Emma. Emma clapped her hands with delight. "Are you singing for me? That's the most beautiful song I've ever heard." She began to hum along, her small human voice creating a simple melody that somehow harmonized perfectly with the dragon's cosmic song. Captain Jorik found himself wiping tears from his eyes, though he couldn't explain why. The combination of the dragon's otherworldly music and the child's innocent humming was creating something that touched every sentient being within range. Even his hardened soldiers were openly weeping at the beauty of the moment. Ambassador Chen approached the window carefully, not wanting to interrupt, but needing to understand what was happening to his niece. "Emma, how do you feel? Are you okay?" Emma turned to her uncle with a smile that seemed to glow with the same warm light as the dragon. "I feel wonderful, Uncle David. The dragon is teaching me its song. Can you hear how pretty it is?" David could indeed hear the song, and, more than that, he could feel it resonating in his chest like a physical presence. The dragon's music seemed to be awakening something primal in human consciousness, some deep memory of harmony between species that had been lost for generations. The dragon noticed David's presence and very carefully shifted its attention to include him in its song. The creature's massive eyes studied the adult human with new understanding. If this small one was precious, then the adults who cared for her must also be worthy of protection and respect. Admiral Zethrak's voice came over the comm system, shaky with emotion he couldn't control. "All stations, were detecting massive changes in the dragon's biorhythms. I don't know how to describe this. It's like the creature is learning to love. Dr. Alana's instruments were detecting energy patterns that rewrote the textbooks on cosmic consciousness. The dragon's neural complexity is increasing exponentially. It's not just experiencing emotion for the first time, it's becoming more intelligent, more aware. The child's affection is triggering some kind of evolutionary leap in its consciousness. Emma suddenly had another idea. She pulled a small picture from her pocket, a drawing she had made earlier of her family on Earth. The crayon artwork showed stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun, with "I love my family" written in uneven letters across the top. "This is my family," she told the dragon, holding the picture against the window. "That's my mommy and daddy and my little brother Jake and Uncle David and our dog Buddy. We all love each other very much." The dragon studied the simple drawing with the same intensity it might give to mapping a new galaxy. The concept of family was another revelation for a creature that had spent eternity alone. The idea that beings could form bonds of affection and protection, could choose to care for each other without any benefit to themselves, was transforming the dragon's understanding of existence itself. Very carefully, the dragon extended one massive claw and traced the outline of Emma's family in the air, mimicking the shapes in her drawing. The gesture was so gentle and precise that it demonstrated incredible control over the creature's vast power. "You understand," Emma exclaimed joyfully. "You know what family means now. Maybe you could be part of our family too, if you want to be." The dragon's entire form trembled at this suggestion. The concept of belonging somewhere, of being wanted rather than feared, struck the ancient creature with emotional force greater than any weapon it had ever faced. For billions of years, it had been the ultimate outsider, too powerful and dangerous for any civilization to accept. Now, a human child was offering it something beyond its wildest dreams. The dragon's song changed, becoming deeper and more complex. To the alien observers, it sounded like the creature was trying to learn the emotional language of family bonds. Ancient circuits in its cosmic brain were awakening, circuits that had been designed for social bonding but had never been activated due to the dragon's eternal isolation. Ambassador Krell was frantically communicating with his homeworld. "Yes, you heard correctly. The Void Dragon is showing signs of domestication. No, I'm not insane. The human child has somehow triggered maternal responses in a cosmic predator. We need xenopsychologists here immediately." Emma pressed her whole body against the window, spreading her arms wide as if she were trying to hug the dragon. "I wish I could give you a real hug," she said. "But you're too big, and there's this wall between us." The dragon understood her desire and felt the same longing. Very slowly, it began to curve its massive form around the outside of the station, not touching but creating a sense of protective embrace. The creature's wings spread wide, casting gentle shadows that somehow felt comforting rather than threatening. Dr. Alana was recording everything in amazement. The dragon is exhibiting classic protective posturing, but directed toward the entire station rather than just the child. It's treating all of us as part of its newly adopted family unit. Captain Jorik realized what this meant for galactic security. If the dragon sees the station and everyone in it as family to protect, we may have just gained the most powerful guardian in the universe. Nothing in known space would dare attack anything under a void dragon's protection. Emma suddenly yawned, the excitement of the day, finally, catching up with her 8-year-old energy reserves. "I'm getting sleepy," she told the dragon. "Will you still be here when I wake up? I don't want you to leave and be lonely again." The dragon's response was immediate and unmistakable. It settled into a more permanent position around the station, clearly indicating that it had no intention of leaving. The creature's song shifted to softer, more soothing tones, like a cosmic lullaby designed to help the child sleep peacefully. "It's going to stay," David realized with wonder. "The dragon is going to guard the station while she sleeps." Admiral Zethrak's voice carried amazement and fear in equal measure. We need to contact the Galactic Council immediately. This changes everything we know about interspecies relations. If one human child can form emotional bonds with a void dragon, what does that say about humanity's potential role in the galaxy? Emma's mother, Sarah, finally arrived after fighting through the crowds of evacuating families. She had been told about the dragon, but hadn't believed the reports until she saw it herself. Her first instinct was to grab her daughter and run, but something in the dragon's posture and song stopped her. "It's okay, Mommy," Emma said sleepily. "The dragon is nice. It just needed a friend. Can we keep it?" Sarah looked at her husband, Tom, who had arrived just behind her. Neither of them had any idea how to handle their 8-year-old asking to keep a cosmic predator as a pet. But looking at the dragon's gentle behavior and the obvious bond it had formed with their daughter, they found themselves considering the impossible. The dragon noticed Emma's parents and very carefully shifted its position to include them in its protective embrace. Its massive head lowered until it was at their level, and it began to sing softly for them as well. The creature was trying to communicate that it understood the family structure and wanted to earn their acceptance. Tom, a practical engineer, found himself studying the dragon's behavior with professional interest. "It's intelligent," he murmured. "Probably more intelligent than any species we've encountered. And it's choosing to be gentle because that's what Emma needs." Dr. Alana approached the family carefully. "Mrs. Martinez, what your daughter has accomplished here will be studied for generations. She's created the first recorded emotional bond between a human and a void dragon. The implications for interspecies psychology, galactic diplomacy, and our understanding of consciousness itself are staggering." Emma yawned again and leaned against her mother. "The dragon sings really pretty lullabies," she said drowsily. "I think it never learned how to be happy before, but now it knows." The dragon's song grew even softer, and amazing things began to happen throughout the station. Plants in the hydroponics bays started growing faster and healthier. Stress-related illnesses among the crew began healing spontaneously. The very air seemed cleaner and more energizing. The dragon's happiness was literally transforming the environment around it. Ambassador Rena recorded her observations in crystal memory banks. The dragon's emotional state is affecting local space-time in beneficial ways. Its joy is creating measurable improvements in biological and technological systems. This creature isn't just powerful, it's becoming a force for healing and growth. General Thorne was already planning how to integrate this development into galactic security protocols. If humanity can form bonds with cosmic predators, they may be the diplomatic bridge we need for dealing with other dangerous species. This child may have just solved conflicts we thought were unsolvable. Emma finally fell asleep in her mother's arms, one small hand still pressed against the window where the dragon could see it. The creature's massive eye remained focused on the sleeping child, and its protective song continued in barely audible tones that helped everyone on the station rest more peacefully than they had in years. As news of the encounter spread across the galaxy, representatives from dozens of species began requesting permission to study this unprecedented bond. Scientists wanted to understand how a human child had achieved what the greatest diplomats and warriors had considered impossible. Military leaders wanted to know if this represented a new form of alliance warfare. Philosophers debated what the dragon's transformation meant for the nature of consciousness itself. But Emma slept peacefully through all the excitement, dreaming of flying through space on the back of her new friend while stars sang lullabies all around them. And outside the station, the universe's most feared predator stood guard over a human child, experiencing love for the first time in its ancient existence. The dragon's transformation rippled out across cosmic consciousness networks that few species even knew existed. Ancient beings in distant galaxies felt the change and wondered what could have caused such a fundamental shift in the universe's emotional balance. For the first time in eons, the cosmos itself seemed to be learning that love could be more powerful than fear. When Emma woke up the next morning, the dragon was still there, still singing softly, still radiating protective warmth around the station. And as she pressed her hand to the window and whispered, "Good morning, friend," the universe seemed to shimmer with possibilities that no one had ever dared imagine. The age of fear between species was ending, and the age of understanding was about to begin, all because one human child had been brave enough to offer friendship to a creature everyone else